Hello there, you're watching the polls on the JoyNews channel. We're coming to you live from our studios here in Accra on your digital terrestrial TV because we are free to air. You can get us on DSTV channel 421 and GoTV channel 144. We are JoyNews, independent, fearless and credible journalism. Coming up this afternoon, Ghana AIDS Commission calls for greater awareness of HIV disease as with some 23,000 persons testing positive in at least 6 months alone. We have details coming your way shortly, and residents of some communities in the Mwabija South constituency of the Ashanti region chase out their Member of Parliament Emmanuel Ejay with machete over the poor state of their roads.
Who was on a tour with fierce resistance. Some of the residents wielding machetes threatened the Member of Parliament.
We'll get to the very latest from the area shortly. And patrons strong the Accra International Conference Center for Day 2 of the Ecoban Joy Habitat Fair 2022. We'll hear from some exhibitors who have been dishing out whopping discounts to customers. That's all coming up here on the Pulse, brought to you by Global Communities Digni Lu Affordable Safe Sanitation. Remember that this afternoon we're streaming live on YouTube, and all of our social media handles is at JoyNews on TV. I'm Blessed Sogah. Thanks for choosing us. Well, and this afternoon, the Ghana AIDS Commission is urging Ghanaians to take necessary precautions to avoid contracting HIV. The latest data released by the Commission shows that some 23,495 people tested positive for the virus in the first half of the year. Data analyst with our research desk, Isaac Ofieje, will be joining us shortly with more on the figures being released by the AIDS Commission on this. But first of all, there's a need for us to hear from the AIDS Commission on what's accounting for the surge in the figures. Also in the Ashanti region, a lot of people have been sharing their concerns on revelations that there appears to be a surge in the figures.
Go to the barbering shop, the tools they are using. So the first thing is abstinence. The second is me getting my own barbering tools. I have a machine I used to shave. When I'm going to the barbering shop, I carry my own machine. Scissors, comb, and other tools.
I am being faithful. You know, it's A, B, C. A for abstain, B for being faithful, and C, condomize. So I am doing the B, being faithful. I make sure, for me personally, when I go to the barbering shop, I make sure their equipment that they use for barbering is being sterilized, like thoroughly sterilized before they use it on me. Sometimes I go with my own clippers.
Measures or precautions given to the general public. So it's either you stay, like, you prevent yourself from doing things you're not supposed to do.
Which are some of the things?
Like, using contraceptives, or you stay chaste till marriage before you indulge yourself into such activities like slow sex to prevent HIV.
Okay. Thank you.
And I am married, so I do not do any woman issue, no womanizing. I'm stuck to my wife. I equally have my personal barber who mostly comes to my place. I have this man shaving everything, you understand? So the only advice I would advise my fellow friends is just stick to your partner, condomize, and make sure you are protected. It's real. I know, I think basically it's 23,000 and beyond, right? Yeah. But what do we have to do? The pleasure we cannot avoid. So all you need to do is just condomize when necessary.
I've been hearing this on radio and on TV. That is the media that we should ensure personal hygiene. That is, you shouldn't use any blade your fellow has used. If you do that, you can contract that kind of virus. That is HIV virus. Once I'm not married, I don't engage in premarital sex, so I'm free.
I've not really heard about it being on the rise.
So what are you doing to protect yourself?
Okay, what we learned from school is that our students share sharp objects that I have had as a habit. So when I go to the salon, I make sure that the things that are being used on me are sterilized, and I also don't share sharp objects like blade and stuff. So I've had that habit on me since, say primary school to the uni. So I don't do anything that will put me at risk as far as HIV AIDS is concerned.
Well, data analyst with our JoyNews research desk, Kofi Ajay, is joining me in studio just to break down the figures for you and paint that national outlook for you and what's happening in terms of the infection rate. Kofi is joining us at this time, and we'll be putting the figures on your screens right now. But let's start off with how we arrived at the 23,000. It appears that there's a slight drop in the figures from what we experienced last year.
Well, although there's a slight drop, but if you do the year-on-year analysis, right from 2019 to 2021, you could see slight, increase in terms of the population living with HIV. So on your screen now is the 2019 population, which is 342,307, people living with HIV/AIDS. This increase to 346,122 in 2020, and now 2021, this is the current population we have. The estimated population is around 350,000. Now, if you look at the first quarter of 2022, we've recorded close to over 23,000, and this is a decline from the 25,000 we recorded in the first, half of 2021. But just like we are saying in terms of the trend analysis, you can actually see that right from 2019 to 2021, we've been seeing slight, increment in terms of the population. So it increased by more than 2% from 2019 to 2021. And we've also seen an increase about 1.24% from 2020 to 2021. So there you have it, the statistics for you in terms of the HIV population. Although the first half of the year, 2022, has recorded some decline, the historical data in terms of the year-on-year analysis shows that you've seen this marginal increment over the years from 2.4% if you compare 2019 to 2021, and then 1.24% 2019 to 2020.
Do we have a clear idea of the regional breakdown and what's this looking like for us as a country?
The regional breakdown is actually more or less like uniform in the southern parts of the country. So we have places like the eastern region, the western region, but the regional breakdown is somewhat uniform when you look at the data.
And we'll be hearing from the AIDS Commission shortly. But then when you look at 2019, 2020 and 2021, there appears to be a steady increase. Is it correct to make that analysis?
Very correct.
But then there's a slight drop, or what you'd say a sharp drop in 2022. How about the restrictions and other issues we experienced during COVID? Is it a far-fetched factor to bring in to say, well, that's why we're not really experiencing the figures as you should be?
Well, it could be one of the factors, but COVID was actually very serious in 2020. But if you look at the data, the increment in terms of, if you compare the year-on-year from 2019 to 2020, you could see 2019 to 2020, the increase in terms of the population, the estimated population with HIV/AIDS was a bit higher than what we saw between 2020. And so you may be right, it could be one of the factors because we saw the growth rate in terms of the population, 2.4% between 2019 and 2021. But if you compare 2020 and 2021, there is a significant decline in terms of the growth rate from 2.4 to now 1.24 between these years under review.
Kofi Ajay with our research desk. Let's hear from the AIDS Commission now on what it is that's accounting for this. In fact, some persons, they're sharing their concerns as to what they know even about the virus. So let me bring in the Director General of the Ghana AIDS Commission, Jeremy Tuahini. Thank you so much for your time, sir. I also need to point out that also joining us is John Amoisi. He's a virologist. He will be helping us with his perspective on the clinical and aspects of all of this. But let me start off with you, Mr. Tuahini. What's accounting probably for this slight drop in the figures? Mr. Trojan, if you're there with us, kindly unmute. I was just asking about the figures and what's accounting for this slight drop that we're witnessing.
So, well, I cannot hear anything from your end. I don't know if you can hear me, but I cannot hear anything from your end.
If you're with us, let me bring in John Amoisi now. He's a virologist. We're seeing a slight decline in the figures, 23,000. For you, what may be the causative factors as to why we're witnessing that slight drop?
Oh, no, thanks for that. And greetings to you from the KNUST in Kumasi. Just to set the record straight, I'm not a virologist, I'm a medical doctor, but I specialize in global health. And certainly HIV is one of the top global health issues. I did not quite hear your question because the line was not working, but I guess you're focusing on the 23,000 who have tested positive for the virus. I think it's an important discussion we're having, and I've always lamented, and I say this to my students, that the focus on HIV/AIDS has really dwindled over the past several years. Unlike back in the day when there was always a lot of talk about HIV/AIDS, a lot of educational campaigns and efforts to really reduce the impact of this disease. These days, there's almost radio silence on HIV/AIDS, and I'm not surprised that we're seeing the kind of figures that we have now. I just want to really make an important point regarding a disease like HIV/AIDS and why we need to appreciate it in context. I mean, it's a disease which, when you get, really, you have for life. And if the right measures are put in place, one can live a perfectly normal life, even when they have HIV/AIDS. The challenge is that once someone has HIV/AIDS, they also have the potential to spread it. And this is where the problem largely is. If it is spread and is not detected quickly, then people get sick and will ultimately die. And this is a problem. The double-edged sword about HIV and HIV/AIDS control comes from the fact that when HIV/AIDS control is put in place, what happens is that, well, if you're looking in terms of preventing the incidence or new cases of HIV/AIDS, it is good in its own self, because then you have less people over a period of time testing positive or getting HIV/AIDS. But at the same time, these efforts go along with, providing the right kind of treatment and access to testing for those with HIV/AIDS. And what this means is that those who have the virus will survive for longer, or they will live fairly normal lives. But that doesn't mean that they cannot infect others. So you are prolonging the lives of people, giving them a normal life. But that also means that your pool of people who will put others at risk will be pretty stable. And so you want to, at the same time, reduce the people who are testing positive, that's new people who are joining the pool. At the same time, you want to extend the lifespan of those who are already positive, almost giving them normal lives. So you need to combine the two efforts continually, both preventing people from getting the disease, as well as addressing those who already have it, who you're doing so well in providing them with the opportunity to live a normal life. You need to keep them in your radar, because then if they lose guard, so to speak, they could also infect others and then increase your pool of positive people. So it really is a double-edged sword. And I think HIV/AIDS is one of the really important diseases which we have to understand will be around for a very long time. And as much as possible, you want to keep your incidence numbers as low as possible, which may be a bit different from addressing your prevalence issues. So those would be my comments, and perhaps if you ask again your question, I could address any areas which I may have failed to address.
23,000 cases. It's not as though we're out of the woods yet. What should we be on the lookout for? That's a significant number, isn't it?
Well, it depends on how you look at it. I mean, it's 23,000 out of what? And if you look at the information that was provided, I think they made it clear what this pool of persons whom they tested was. I can't quite remember the figure off the top of my head, but out of that pool, definitely fairly significant. I would say it really is the tip of the iceberg. And then perhaps if we do a more national level kind of prevalence estimate, we might get maybe larger figures, maybe smaller figures, but given that this was done scientifically, it could be fairly representative of what's happening in the country. You also need to understand that these prevalence numbers would differ significantly from region to region, and so it's important that whatever efforts are put in place are also very specific to the different parts of the country and the various demographics, and therefore what the risks may be. And I know that the Ghana AIDS Commission, the Ministry of Health, Ghana Health Service really are on top of this. They have the most accurate figures, and there's a lot of effort going on both to prevent the incidence of the disease as well as to provide the best health care to those who already have the disease. My focus mainly is on the seeming quietness around HIV/AIDS in the public eye, and this perception that it's not so much a problem as it was in the 90s. It remains a problem, and we still need to give it that visibility that it demands, especially because now we can keep people living fairly normalized with HIV/AIDS, which means that then they have the capacity to infect others if the right measures are not put in place and the visibility regarding the risks for the disease is not there. So really important to keep it in the public eye.
There's that fear that COVID-19 could have distorted the figures. It's not as though we're praying that the figures keep surging, but if you look at the trajectory way from 2019 up until 2021, the figures kept going up. The fear is that COVID-19 could have pushed away a lot more people from at least assessing health facilities, which would then make it possible for the AIDS Commission to capture all of these people into the database. Is that a far-fetched assertion?
Well, I would say we don't know. Now, the reason is this. I know that the Ghana AIDS Commission, and they can speak better for themselves, the surveys that they conduct to arrive at these prevalence estimates are not just limited to hospital data. They collect data from all over the place. So the hospital is not the only place where we get this information. That notwithstanding, your assertion regarding the distortion of figures on account of COVID is not only for HIV/AIDS, for many other diseases, malaria and all the others. We saw how COVID-19 really distorted these figures. It's difficult to tell whether these were artificial or real, but every focus was now on COVID-19. That's one thing. The other thing was health-seeking behavior. That's the way we put it technically. Also changed during COVID. People's decisions regarding going to the hospital changed based on what they perceive to be a risk by going to a health facility or otherwise. So it will take some time for us to really understand the impact of COVID on other diseases, not in terms of its real incidence, but our ability to estimate. And this speaks to the fact that we need to have a more comprehensive surveillance system for diseases in general, not just HIV/AIDS, because relying on hospital data alone does not provide you the real picture. It will only give you the picture of those who came to facilities. And so what you really want is some kind of community-based type of surveillance activity. But as I mentioned before, with HIV/AIDS, the Ghana AIDS Commission, Ghana Health Service, Ministry of Health really has been on top of that ball in measuring the incidence and prevalence estimates, which I believe are pretty accurate.
And this is where, John, you'd have to hold on for us. Just stay with us. So let's bring in the Director General of the Ghana AIDS Commission, Chairman Hygiene. Thank you, sir, for your time. The factors accounting for the 23,000, I guess, is something we need to take a look at.
Right. Thank you for having me. Actually, the 23,495 that we are talking about is actually data from HIV test during the period under reference. Now, it is data testing was conducted in health facilities, in communities, and these both community level data and health facility data give us this figure. And so it clearly shows that, as you pointed out earlier on, that looking at the trend from 2019 till now, you can see that the number of positive cases is going down. And that's a reflection of the fact that as Dr. Moasi said, the efforts we are making both in preventing and managing the conditions of people living with HIV actually working. And I will illustrate this by pointing out that new infections of HIV in the country is also on a downward trend. Over the last 5 years or so, we can talk of 2017 to 2021, new infections reduced by 26%. AIDS deaths have also reduced by 38% within the same period. What that tells us is that the treatment program is working well, because when people who are on treatment and are virally suppressed cannot transmit the virus to their partner sexually. It also means that it prevents people from developing AIDS and dying if they do not get treatment. And so with AIDS deaths also coming down shows that the treatment is actually working.
And in the context of that, I'm now being focused on the 23,000. It's as though we're very much fixated on the larger population and asking them to abstain and to observe some precautions. But where lies the hope for these 23,000 people? And what efforts are you putting in place as the Ghana AIDS Commission just to try and give them hope at least?
Okay, so I would like to point out that we have estimated 100,000 people who live with HIV but have not tested. And so they don't know their HIV status. So with the 23,000 getting to know, being diagnosed and getting to know their status, for me is a positive thing that we should encourage others to do, because it's helping us to pick the cases that we do not know. And the objective of the national response is actually to diagnose at least 95% of people living with HIV and put 95% of those diagnosed on antiretroviral treatment, and expect that they will be supported to adhere to treatment and attain viral suppression. And when they are virally suppressed, then we have the hope that we will be able to end AIDS as our national strategy expects us to achieve. And we shall also achieve epidemic control, because they cannot, virally suppressed individuals cannot transmit the virus sexually, and they will not develop AIDS. And so with this goal in mind, we will want to, commend every effort that individuals who live with HIV but have not been diagnosed to do the test. And the test is free. You don't pay anything to get tested. And so it is very important that those who have never tested at all go and test.
I'm interested in knowing a lot more about the mode of transmission, even before we get into the testing regime. And I recall that about a year or two ago, you were concerned and alarmed that we have overaged men having transactional sex, and that's becoming one of the breeding grounds for the virus. In this latest report that you're putting out there, has this trend changed, or perhaps it's still the same?
Well, it's human behavior, and we cannot say it's changed because we haven't seen any data that suggests that has changed. But it's not only what we call sugar daddy, sugar mommy kind of situation in the country, or age mixing so far as sex is concerned.
Yeah, but is that a major factor? Is it still a major factor?
I think we can put it this way. There are various factors, and one of them, which I believe is a major factor, is concurrent multiple partnerships. That is one where one person has more than one sexual partner. And these days, you know that individuals can have 3, 4, 5 boyfriends or girlfriends. And another major factor is casual sex. Now, people are so liberated in their minds and can have sex at any time. And so when they meet for the first time, what comes into mind is sex, and they just have it without protection. So casual sex, concurrent multiple partnership, and even serial monogamy is also a challenge, where individuals, will stick to one person over a short time, they break up, and quickly they get into relationship with another, and it keeps going on. And in all these situations, they do not use condoms. And so unprotected sex is the major reason, because most people who live with HIV in Ghana got it through sexual transmission. That's about 80%. And so we know the risk, and we also have the protection. And so the protection, as we all know, the prevention methods are 3, A, B, C, D for short: abstinence, sticking to one uninfected partner, or using condoms. And if we stick to these 3, then we have the opportunity to stop sexual transmission. And besides that, the next risk is from mother to child transmission. And that one, antiretroviral medicines helps us to break that chain of transmission. And pregnant women are supported at the antenatal clinics to actually get tested. And when they test positive, they are supported to use the drugs. And we have thousands of babies or children who have been born to HIV positive mothers who are HIV negative. And so we know the prevention, we know our risk, and for each of the risks, we have the prevention tools. And so we have to use those prevention tools to protect ourselves from infection, because we're talking about 23,000. And we want to understand whether it's a concern or it's not. It is. Even one person getting HIV is a major concern, because as Dr. Amuasi said, that one person can give it to several others. And those several others can also give it to others. And so if we are not protecting ourselves using condoms or whatever protection, then the chain of transmission will continue, and all the efforts we have made will come to zero. And so we need to work together as a country. All of us should recognize our individual risks and try to reduce our risks or eliminate those risks completely.
Dr. Moise, I'll bring you in shortly, but it appears that Mr. Tuahini has left out the sugar. I'm actually asking that question because of the issue of transactional sex, which you gave some updates on about a year ago. That has not been touched on, in terms of the findings this year. Given the fact that we're even finding ourselves in a much more worse economic condition, there are fears that young girls may be exploited, and that could also be a point of infection.
That's absolutely correct. That is what we see every day in workplaces, in educational institutions, even in our homes. That is what is happening. And people, a number of young people, do not have the option of getting something, especially the ladies, the option of getting something they deserve to get without, opening up their ties for a man, and it's creating a lot of psychological problems even for young ladies. And so it is something that we keep talking about, and I'm happy you have brought it up. Transactional sex is an important factor here, and the number of people who are involved is quite large. So it is that a number of people are into sex work, both male and female, and that is also a major risk factor. And unfortunately, some of the men who use the services of sex workers refuse to use condoms when even the sex workers themselves have offered the condoms for use. And sometimes they even become violent because they insist they are paying for it, and therefore they determine the terms of the arrangement. And so when one is giving a condom, it's only for the person's own interest to protect that person. And so we know that from what we have read in the graphic yesterday, we know that sex workers, they are one of the group of people who are high risk and can spread the virus. And so we dedicate a lot of resources and efforts to work with them and ensure that they use condoms at all times. And sometimes they don't get the cooperation of their male partners. And of course, people are now trying other forms of sexual intercourse, including anal sex. And that is also high risk. It doesn't matter whether you are a woman who is having anal sex or a man having anal sex. It's both, in both ways, it is high risk.
Okay.
And people have to reduce their risk.
Dr. Mose, let me bring you in now. Let's talk about the way forward, achieving our targets, 95, 95, 95. I'll hear from you shortly, Zejani, on this one. But Doc, what's your take on achieving our targets, and how do we get there?
No, I think it's a great question. I think this 95 target is talking about by the year 2025, you're looking at 95% of the population who are HIV positive, knowing their status. And then the second 95 is looking at also by the same year, 2025, the 95% of those who test positive for HIV to be on medication. And then the last 95 is that by 2025, you want 95% of those who are taking their medication to achieve viral suppression. And I believe that Dr. Trojan has expanded on this viral suppression and how powerful the tool it is, in the sense that people will still have the virus, but the virus is suppressed so that they cannot transmit it. It's perhaps the single most powerful aim that we seek for in order to break the epidemic of HIV/AIDS. But he also touched on a couple of things which, or he expanded on really the heart of the matter, which is behavior change. It's really a function of the way people behave. In terms of the way they go about having sex. And he rightly mentioned that the major mode of spreading is via sex. Of course, we know that there's, mother to child transmission, which can be very well controlled. We know there's transmission through blood transfusion, which is very rare these days and almost impossible in our current health system if all the steps are followed. And then also transmission via injection drug use, which also can be controlled in very innovative ways. But the key really here is behavior change. You cannot stop people from having sex. So the question is, how do you allow people to continue with their sexual activities, but in a way that does not increase their risk of HIV/AIDS getting it or of spreading it if they have it already?
Right.
And the most powerful way, which he rightly mentioned, is by the provision of condoms. Now, it's not just putting the condom on the table or even making it freely available, but making people aware of the risks that they face. And this is why this tool called behavior change on communication is so powerful when it comes to HIV/AIDS control. And I mentioned earlier in my submissions that the visibility that HIV/AIDS had in the 90s, that not necessarily the fear, but that knowledge that this is real, everybody is at risk. It's no longer there the way it used to be. The Ghana AIDS Commission continues to work really hard, Ghana Health Service, Ministry of Health, but we really would be relying a lot on the media, both traditional media, social media, to put HIV/AIDS out there. Of course, we want to tell people that you can live a normal life if you have it, but we need to put it out there that you are at risk, and a lot will depend on the behavior. So we put the condoms and the other measures on the table, but we also keep people aware that you've got to keep your eyes on that ball.
Let's talk about the curative. It's not a pleasant place to be, but what options are available? And we need to hear from the experts like you on what options are available for someone who may unfortunately get infected. Is it curable? That age-old question has come up again.
Well, I mean, the current scientific consensus in the general sense is that HIV/AIDS is not curable. Now, when we say curable, what we mean is that the virus will not disappear entirely from your system. But the argument would be, who really cares if you can live a normal life and also if you can be in a state where you cannot transmit the virus? And this is why I made mention of the fact that viral suppression is really a powerful thing we need to achieve. Because here, the virus has not completely disappeared, but it's so compressed or suppressed that it does not really affect your way of life. And it does not also, it wouldn't also be transmitted to others. And so I think the argument about whether it's curable or not is not as poignant an issue as it used to be before. Nonetheless, research is going on. There's always one news item here and there talking about how they've achieved some successful elimination of the virus from somebody's system, but there's no publicly available FDA-approved cure for HIV at the moment. The good thing is that access to testing, access to treatments in Ghana remains free, and making people aware of this so they're not afraid to test and also not afraid to go to health facilities for treatment and know where to go is so critical. And I know the Ghana Health AIDS Commission it has really been doing this over several decades, and I'm sure Dr. Tuahine can throw more light on exactly how this is being done.
Yeah, and I want to bring in Mr. Tuahine at this point. Even if we have some drugs dealing with the area of retrovirals, how affordable are they to the average person? Because I'm not sure that the virus is targeting a few rich people, but everyone is at risk. So how are you making these drugs available? And would you say that they're even free at this moment?
Yes, thank you for that question. Actually, the drugs are available in more than 500 health facilities, starting from teaching hospitals, regional hospitals, district hospitals, several polyclinics, and several health centers all across the country. It can be accessed for free. In fact, all HIV services in this country are for free. You don't pay anything. All you need is your national health insurance card, and it must be valid, and they will give you the free service. However, if you don't have national health insurance card or it's expired, you can still get the medicines free, but they will ask you to either renew or register with the national health insurance scheme. So that's all it takes. It's free everywhere. And people who have been on it are living normal lives, as Dr. Mwasi said. We have one lady, Dinah, that many Ghanaians know, right at the beginning of the multi-sectoral response, she was one of the familiar or usual faces that we always present to the public. And she has had HIV for about 30 years. And because of the antiretroviral treatment, she's still alive, healthy, and working. I mean, nothing shows that she lives with HIV. In fact, it is because of the potency of the drugs that you hardly see anybody that shows AIDS symptoms. You hardly can see anyone. And so that is something that for me is very encouraging. Right. And therefore we encourage everybody that lives with HIV to accept the treatment.
I want to bring in now the issue
viral suppression status.
Right. I want to bring in now the issue about churches and religious grounds and how you are collaborating with them. It appears that just from some of the sounds we've heard from the Ashanti region, some persons raising concerns, superstitious concerns actually, about how the virus behaves. How are you working together, knowing that the Ghanaian population, majority of them belong to the Christian community? That's an organized area. How are you moving into the churches and trying to create more awareness on this?
Yeah, we have been in touch with the churches individually and also as a group. We've been talking to them and trying to see how we work together, because we've been working together for a long time now. But there appears to be some complacency, and therefore we have to strengthen our partnerships so that we can use the pulpit to reach out to the congregants by ensuring that they have access to testing and treatment services. And of course, prevention of mother-to-child services. And so we are working very closely with the churches and the Muslims. We are currently trying to have, religious bodies forum, a faith-based forum, where we will discuss all the issues and work together to ensure that all of them actively participate as we used to do in the past.
All right. Let me wrap up with you, Dr. Amoisi, on this. What's your final take as we look forward to the coming days and continue the fight against the virus?
No, thanks for that. My final take will really be to appeal to the media, both the traditional and social media, to really keep the spotlight on HIV/AIDS. The objective is to really break transmission and therefore being able to keep this disease.
Unfortunately, we've lost connection to Dr. Amoisi there, but thanks to Mr. Tuahini as well, Director General for the Ghana AIDS Commission. We take you now to the Ashanti region, but we'll do that after these messages. Residents of some communities in the Ichima and Wabija South constituency in the Ashanti region have chased a member of parliament, Emmanuel Ejay, with a machete over poor roads in the area. The MP was on a tour of some communities within the constituency when his constituents asked him to leave. Nanaya Ojima has been following up on that and now reports.
3 communities, Kobin, Saidi and Amanchia, met the MP who was on a tour with fierce resistance. Some of the residents wielding machetes threatened the member of parliament. At Amanchia, the chief of the community refused to attend a meeting where the MP was expected to listen to the concerns of the community. Nana Efifa Buansan II explains.
And then you were Yabua, I'm a party no mamba. You
have seen the road. Did you like it? You want us to continue voting for you? We helped you win elections. All we are demanding is our fair share of development. We are not in good terms with the NPP and we must tell them. You want us to pour libation on your behalf. We will do that, but you have to do better. Your performance in the Ashanti region is not encouraging. Whoever says otherwise is lying. We will vote against you if election is conducted today. Go and tell the president we like him, but this is the truth.
About 3 years ago, the road between Uyoso and Antwerp was milled for reconstruction. This was because the road was riddled with potholes, which affected movement in the area. Construction of drainage systems commenced immediately, but the contractor later abandoned the construction. Residents say the contractor has not been on site since the beginning of the year. They have filed a complaint to the office of the MP, but they are yet to receive any positive response. The Member of Parliament, Emmanuel J. Anshre, wants the residents to exercise restraint.
Yes, you are
This is the first time something like this has happened. The enthusiasm with which you voted the NPP is the reason behind this action. I can't condemn the act. I have accepted that we haven't completed the road, but I assure you the road will be fixed before 2024 ends.
For Joy News, Nanaya Ojima reporting.
Well, let's stay on the Ashanti region because this is not the first time residents are attacking their Member of Parliament, especially in that part of the country. You'd recall that Majority Leader Osei Mensah during his visit to Swami Mazi was booed and pelted by angry artisans over the poor nature of the road networks in the area. The region, which is also and always been a stronghold for the governing New Patriotic Party, has, according to residents, seen a little development during the party's tenure. The situation is now triggering some dissatisfaction from party faithful. While the Ashanti Regional Minister, Simon Osei Mensah, has been dismissing all of these assertions that the party has neglected the region. He was speaking in an interview with my colleague, Ernest Menu.
When you hear it, to me, it hardens me, and it also put a lot of responsibility on me to sit and reflect on the development of the region so far. With press conference like what happened at Kwabri East, I'm not worried about it.
Why are you not worried?
It's a constitutional right, and the person used peaceful and constitutional means to express their worries and their concerns. That one I'm not worried. I'm worried where people try to take the law into their own hands and then maybe express their feelings. That one I don't support it. I don't ascribe to that one. Yes, the road sector. I'll say we've not been able to fully bridge the gap between the expectation of the people of the Ashanti region and the actual delivery. There was still some gap there. So definitely once you've not been able to bridge that expectation gap, definitely people will complain. But I'll be the last person also to say that the Ashanti region has been sidelined in terms of development.
But you just said that the expectation and infrastructure is very key in development and especially in the region.
I'm saying
if you're saying that you have not bridged the gap.
Let's say the expectation gap is 100%. And we work up to bare 60 or 50. You not fully bridge it. That doesn't mean you've not performed.
But would you say that the concerns of neglect of the region is legitimate?
It's not.
Why is that?
Not fully, yes. One, let me give you spoke about roads.
Yes.
Since 2017, 336 road contracts have been awarded in Ashanti region alone. and with the length is 6,498 kilometers.
Okay.
So far, 1,515.75 of the 6,000 has been bitumen surface or asphalted, representing just about 23.3%. I want a single government since January 7, 1993 to date that has even performed that 23%. That's 1,515 kilometers of road for within 8 years. I want one regime since January 1993. But you see, had it not been the economic crisis, you mentioned and people say everything is the economic crisis. Why is that governments all over the world are mentioning COVID and then recently or this year, the Russia-Ukraine war. Every government, somebody should give me one government that has not cited that as a challenge.
But you see governments also moving away from the effect, from the ravages of the war, of COVID, for instance, and they're growing out of it. Why is Ghana
structures of governments vary. Structures of economies do vary. And depending on the structure of the economy, you may come out early or not. You see, if the war had been between maybe a certain country and another country, maybe the effect wouldn't have been serious.
So that is an indictment on management of the economy and the structures, wouldn't you say?
In all government, and that is what this government had wanted to address. You see, we talk about importation of rice, importation of maize, etc., tomatoes. That's why the government brought planting for food and jobs. And the government knows that if we should have abundant produce, we need a place to keep them. And that is why the introduction of one district, one warehouse. And even when you have the warehouse to keep, you cannot keep them forever because assuming you have bumper harvest continuously for 10 years, all the silos will be full, all the warehouses will be full. So whilst you can export them, you have to also think about how to change them from raw material, ordinary raw products, to some processed goods.
So clearly, Honorable, you had a plan.
Yes, that's why one district, one factory came in. You see, these policies were not brought out in isolation.
But you have not delivered. That's the bottom line.
We were delivering until the onset of COVID. I want anybody who will be sincere to himself. I will not say that we have not delivered. We were delivering until the onset of COVID.
Okay. Let's return to the issue of the roads. I mean, that is at the heart of the concerns.
So I've told you 336, 64 contracts under Department of Urban Roads, 69 contracts under Ghana Highways Authority, and 203 under feeder roads. Do you understand it?
Yeah.
You know, before the COVID, things were moving on all right.
Okay.
And if it had continued that way, and we had even completed even 50%, we will be talking about 3,000 plus kilometers of road. If we have gone to about 75, we'll be talking about somewhere around 5,000 plus kilometers of road. But because of the crisis, you know, the president, if he were to be a prophet, he would have been a perfect prophet. What the president told us during the peak of the COVID, maybe we look at it from the narrow point of view. We didn't do in-depth analysis to get the meaning of what the president was saying. When he said that if people lose their lives, we cannot bring them back to life. But when the economy fails, we can rebuild and bring back the economy. Do you understand it? All that he was saying that once there are some unbudgeted for expenditure we need to make, while there will be some revenue lapses, there will be decrease in revenue, but expenditure will go up. Definitely, simple economics will tell you that we are going to have economic difficulties. It will mean that the budget deficit is going to widen. And once this happens, it will affect several areas. So all that the president was telling the country is that with this pandemic, going forward, we will save lives, but there will be economic downturn in the future. But we will know how to bring the economy back. So this is the time we have to work to bring the economy back.
And so for the thousands who are watching you right now in the Ashanti region, many of whom have been agitating for weeks now, how long should they wait to see the roads finished, tarred, and not
I cannot give them time. Do you know why?
Why?
It depends on the performance of the economy and the ability of the government to pay the contractors who have left site. And I cannot sit here and give timelines because I don't hold the purse. And I don't know when whatever the government is doing, when we are going to get the money. So I don't want to give timelines. But all that I'm praying for, that all the measures and systems put in place, all the areas the government is trying to source for funding must be realized, even not in its entirety.
But the point of the people is that, granted that COVID has had its adverse effect on the economy, what did the government do for the region in its first term? I mean, this is your World Bank. In the last election, you performed 71%, the presidential election. The NDC obviously appreciated in terms of their figures. Today, we are hearing from the chairman of the NDC that they are carrying out some registration in the region, and they've seen 100% increase in terms of membership. They think that a lot more people are joining their party, and you should be worried about that.
You see, what NDC says in the region is what they are saying. I don't have access to their figures. I don't have access to their records. They have the access. They have said their questions. They have their marking scheme. They can mark it.
But you're not worried. You're not worried that the developments of today will affect your fortunes in 2024?
What I'm worried is when we get, is how to get money to give the contractors to go back to site. Not NDC now.
And you can watch the full interview on our various social media handles as JoyNews on TV. Well, this afternoon, don't listen to any directives to close your shops on Monday, 29th of August, 2022. Go ahead and trade. That's the call by the Traders Advocacy Group, Ghana TAG. The association is using and urging all traders throughout Ghana to ignore an initial order for them to close down their shops in protest of the depreciation of the Ghana cedi. Now, according to TAG, the decision will only hurts the local traders, and therefore it is important for them not to obey it. The General Secretary of the Association, Nana Poku, joins us via Zoom now. Thank you, sir, for your time on The Pulse. So you're going against the orders from the umbrella body, the Ghana Union of Traders Association, which is, of course, rolled on other stakeholders as it embarks on this industrial action, if I may call it such, next Monday. Why do you think that this is not an important exercise? You would have to unmute for me, first of all, so I can hear the point you're making, sir. Nana Poku, you'd have to unmute so I get the point you're making. Yes.
I have unmute now.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
Thank you for having me this afternoon. And let me first of all debunk the assertion of umbrella body. If you go to the Registrar General's Department, there is nothing there that says umbrella body. There is nothing like that. But you can have a group of companies, which maybe you have 3 companies you can register as such. But there is nothing like umbrella. We are all trade associations registered by law.
What's your membership?
My membership currently, we have sector associations under us. And at the same time, we have over 12,000 registered members on a database. Let me land, please. We are the first trade organization in Ghana who have successfully, put all traders, whatever the person's trading status is, on a database. We are the first to have done this.
I get that. I'm saying to you that that's not comparable to what it is that we have GUTA representing. Right? You agree?
On our database, we have almost over 60 different associations under us. So what they seem to represent is for their people. We also, you see, the trade fraternity is big. All right? Let me tell you, if you take JoyNews and you take GTV, aren't you doing the same thing? So, the difference is the content the two of you are producing, all right? So if you go to NAT, we have NAGRAT, we have concern, it's the same as trade. So there is nothing like umbrella body, umbrella. There is nothing like that. So we cannot sit down. Let me come to the substantial issue. We cannot sit down for our people to go back home impoverished. And big companies like Kuala, Malcolm work all because in the name of protest. What we have done is we have empowered our members to start talking. They should talk at the club, they should talk in church, they should talk at the funeral, they should talk everywhere. If we keep talking, these are the same politicians that we go to church with. These are the same politicians that we dine with. They will hear our cry. And what at all would we gain if we go and sit in the house? The answer is zero, nothing. So we have urged our members not to close their shops. But we are picking a lot of indication from the market that some group of people have decided in order for them to succeed, they are going to attack people who will go and open their shops. We are urging Ghana Police Service to be up and doing. We live in democratic dispensation. Nobody can actually use whatever that he or she is trying to gain and then step on people's toes.
Yeah, these are your claims. We don't have evidence to back that. You do agree?
We have evidence to back it.
Who exactly is behind these planned attacks as you're announcing?
This morning when I came to the office, I came to meet some traders that their gate man was insisting that on Monday he will not open where they sell for them.
Yeah, but
meanwhile, they have rented the place to work over there. So why on earth would somebody be that recalcitrant by telling them that I will not open the place for you to come and work? Don't you think some rights are being infringed?
No, I get your point. I'm asking about who is behind all of these. The fact that there are planned attacks, as you're pointing out.
With the parameters that we work in, we are very much so in touch with the security agencies. There are some things that will not be media friendly. So let us move on and then see how best your questions can be answered, my brother.
Well, but this is also a national platform, Nana Poku. You don't go scot-free without putting statements out there.
Let me deal
when you can't back them. Yes, precisely.
Let me deal with the security agencies and leave the public for now.
Okay, so we are treating that as not a serious claim. You agree?
Yeah, let's move on.
All right, okay, back to business. The Ghana cedi to the US dollar, it's trading almost beyond 10 Ghana cedis now. It's not of concern to you as TAG?
It's very pathetic. What can traders do? If the finance minister is not up to task, if the governor of Bank of Ghana is not up to task, me, a petty trader, what can I do? What can I do? If I am so much concerned of this, I do not have, my limits cannot even take me to the Bank of Ghana to change things. Our plea to them is that they've gone to school. They claim they know what to do to make sure to arrest the city. They should do their magic. It is not, you see, when the trading sector falls, I tell you, everything goes down. That is the only thing that people should see. You know, as soon as the trading fraternity begin to cry, everything in the country will go down the drain. So it is an appeal through your beautiful medium, through your esteemed medium, to the policy makers, that they should do their magic. And the word is now to make sure traders are eased to do business. Now, currently go to Temahaba. There are no containers over there because people are not importing. There is a serious crisis in our hands. Our competitors being these big companies who are selling along along with us. For them, they have interest rate at 4%, 2%, and they are trading in the country. My people, the multitudes that we lead, have gone to banks and get loans under 26, 27, 30, 35%. Why should I encourage them to go and stay in the house? We are urging all traders in the country, our members and non-members, for them to go to work on Monday. They should go and open their shops.
Okay, it's fair enough.
Aside that, we work alongside with government and make sure things are well in place to curb the situation.
You're not a fan of the arrangements Guta appears to be working with, but already it's beginning to generate some response from the national, I guess that's from the Council of State. We understand that there's a meeting slated for Monday. So it appears that that initial announcement alone of taking some drastic measures if government fails to act or if we're not seeing action from the authorities is beginning to gain some attention. What's your expectation going forward into that rounds of negotiation that we may be seeing between the Council of State and leadership of Guta?
My brother, all my experience at the front of traders, what I hate in life is misplaced priorities. Council of State have nothing to do with trading. We have agencies that can speak on behalf of traders. That is the Ministry of Trade and then the Finance Ministry. What can Council of State advise? They advise government. They don't do trading. So misplaced arrangement and misplaced priorities in this call is completely wrong.
You're telling me
that we're supposed to responding to us is not the Council of State.
You're telling me that we don't have enough expertise on the Council of State? Is that what you're telling me?
No, they are people to advise the president.
And the president,
MMDs.
Right, and the president is directly responsible for our well-being as citizens. I mean, just draw the connection. It's not as though the Council of State as a mechanism is completely needless. You agree? Even look at some of the personalities involved. You have, for instance, Mr. Sumahin, who happens to be one of your very known traders, importers into this country. So that's the caliber of people you have at the Council of State. You still want to question the expertise there?
I think we've answered ourselves. We've answered ourselves. The point you made, I side with you. They have a certain level of influence in and within the activities of government. But I'm telling you, if somebody should address traders, it's not the Council of State. It's direct. Please. We are in this business for a longer period till today. It's not Council of State. What we need now is the Finance Ministry taking charge of the situation. If Council of State have called Finance Ministry and the Minister to ask some of the problems that they are encountering, what at all can they also ask the traders to do?
Okay, Nana Poku, so what should be the solution now? I mean,
what we are saying on our press release yesterday, we said to arrest the city. Number one, the government should try as much as possible to chase this black market racketeering. Number two, if a multinational company is given a 5 years tax holidays, in the same vein, the agreement should also push them to retain their cash in the country within 5 years before they can start repatriating cash from the country. Because our local banks need that money for us, the business people, to work with. So we are looking at policy change in a direction whereby our city can be sustained. Right now, city repatriation in the country has been the order of the day. Now, the dollar repatriation, sorry. Now, the PDCs, the telcos, all these people are lifting dollar from the country. For that matter, if you come down, Nigeria is speaking from Ghana, Togo is speaking from Ghana, So what can our economy cannot sustain this? These are the solutions we are preferring down so that the authorities will listen to us and do some policy change immediately so that things can work. If not, we can demonstrate and demonstrate all the time in our lives. Nothing will happen.
Anyway, let's see what happens in the coming days. I would also be paying attention to what it is that the Council of State will be engaging Guta on. But I'm so grateful for your time, Nana Poku, for your time here on the Pulse. Well, the Vice President has been commenting at measures to shore up revenue in the country. We'll talk all about that shortly. But for now, let's talk about this. The minority in Parliament is this afternoon tearing into government's plan to recruit and deploy senior high school graduates to CHIPS compounds across the country. The Youth Employment Agency, which is seeking to implement the project, says the SHS graduates will assist with basic healthcare delivery, such as record keeping, the medical history of patients at CHIP compounds, which is located largely in the rural parts of Ghana. The Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association is kicking against that and has described the move as disturbing. According to a member of the Health Committee in Parliament, Dr. Sebastian Sandari, the program will fail and have no impact on healthcare delivery.
They don't have any space and they have no rule. Bear in mind, these are people that have not finished their education. The focus should be, how do we ensure that senior high graduates, have the opportunity to continue with their education? If you train them, maybe just some few weeks or days of training, and you say they should go to CHIPS zones or be at the CHIP compounds, they have no rule. Even the little they learn, at a point, will leave and go to school. So for how long are you going to be training? They are leaving and you are training. You do that when there's no other way of addressing the challenges. If there are no nurses, there are no community-based volunteers, then you say that, okay, we don't have the needed people. Then let's recruit anybody we can to do. But like I'm saying, you have the needed manpower, people with the skills, who rather are sitting at home, losing their skills. I mean, the nurses we have trained for years and they are sitting in the houses, they are sitting there decaying. And they have been trained, they have used years to train them. And you think that you rather train these ones for some weeks or some days, they won't make any impact at the CHIPS compound level. And they might bring some bad behaviors. Bear in mind, many are still teenagers. You get it? So why would you be exposing teenagers to all the risks and hazards at the CHIPS compound?
Well, so let's speak now to parliamentary correspondent Kweku Asante, who's been monitoring that engagement. Joins us in studio now. And Kweku, this issue started off yesterday, and I guess a day before yesterday, because we got that indication that minority is not pleased with this when Kwabena Mintah Akando raised some concerns. But it's becoming evident that minority may be taking some steps against that policy move. What's the, utmost concern of the minority of this?
So the minorities say that there are already volunteer groups at the CHIPS compounds across the country. And if government thinks they need some further reinforcement, then why not educate more these volunteer groups who are not qualified professionals strictly in its sense to do that job? Why are you going to give this job to SHS graduates who already do not have those skills, who have not completed their education to be doing this? And so they are not pleased about this. They are saying that government must deal with this immediately. We know Parliament is on break, else they will be forced to take some measures.
But we saw, obviously, the YEA giving us reasons, and in fact, the services that all of these persons will be recruited, about 5,000 of them, right, will be providing. Is that not enough grounds to give assurances to the MPs to say, well, they are not necessarily going in to be doctors or nurses?
Well, so what the minority are saying is that these are people who have just completed senior high school, mostly are teenagers. Why not allow them to complete their education? And if this is a field they want to come in, then you allow them to come. Instead of now boxing them at this, they are even having concerns that it could actually lead to some of these students curtailing their education at the SHS level because they have something on their hands in these CHIP compounds. We know that the Director General of the Ghana Health Service has provided some explanation. The minority says the explanation that the Director General of the Health Service has been provided is completely off the cuff and it's not something that will fix the challenge. Let's listen to Dr. Sandari.
To the health of Mother Ghana and everybody in here. So we acknowledge the work of doctors, we acknowledge the work of nurses, we acknowledge the work of midwives and so on and so forth. However, I'm not sure everybody can do every kind of job in whichever field they are. And we have a basis for what we are doing, which is greatly supported by the World Health Organization, it's supported by the African Union, and it's supported by the Parliament of Ghana, the Ministry of Health. In fact, we are doing this under the auspices of the Ghana Health Service. It'd be very surprising to believe or think that the Ghana Health Service, the Health Subcommittee of the Parliament of Ghana, and the Ministry of Health have not gone through all of these things that we are talking about and have not really thought about it. What we are doing is, first of all, to create employment for the young people, young men and women of Ghana. Secondly, to attend to primary health care delivery in preventable health care, and especially in the rural communities. We are not posting anybody to any big hospital like the Bank Hospital here in Accra. We are not posting anybody to, for example, the Tamale Regional Hospital or the Northern Regional Hospital in Tamale. We are posting them to the CHIPS compound. We are posting them not to act as nurses. We have been very explicit on this. Not to act as nurses, not to act as doctors, but to act as preventive health service officers. My brother, you would agree with me that we are in the rainy season, for example. Cholera usually comes out as an outbreak every rainy season here in Ghana. What do we do that we get cholera as an outbreak every rainy season here in Ghana? It is because of little practices that we have in our homes.
Yeah, but if you may, I mean, if you look at the concerns from the group, they're saying the CHIPS compound actually formed the basic unit of our healthcare system. You don't want to dwell with that, particularly knowing how difficult it is for some in the rural communities to access some of the district facilities.
Where did we write that community health service providers are going to man the CHIP compounds? We haven't said that anywhere. We are not saying that they are going to be administrators of CHIP compounds. We have not said that they are going to administer injections to anybody. We have not said that they are even going to take temperatures of anybody. They are going to assist the professionals.
But there are a raft of measures, or I mean, some of the services they'll be able to provide, and that, for instance.
So if I may, let me just explain it.
Right.
If I may, and he understands that none of our recruited people are going to provide these services that are provided by professional health service providers. And that is what we are talking about. That, for example, pick a folder for me. If I'm a nurse and I'm attending to a patient, pick a folder for me. What kind of expertise do you need to pick a folder for someone? Attend to or educate people in their houses on.
Well, so that's Kwesi Efree, happens to be Director of Corporate Affairs at the Youth Employment Agency. So, but minority still says, well, that's not a good justification.
Indeed, they've been labeling this justification from YEA itself as well as justification from the Director General of the Ghana Health Service that these explanations that they are giving are afterthoughts and that this program is just bound to fail and it's something that they want them to draw back on. Let's listen.
I listened to the Director General of the Ghana Health Service in an attempt to defend this bad policy, saying that the problem of CHIPS services at the community level is linkage with the community. Linkage with the community, if even is a problem, then we have to look at why it is a problem. Because the CHO has community-based volunteers, and their role is to link the community with the service delivery, because the CHO might not come from the community. The CHO might not know all the community and the community dynamics. So you have the community health volunteers chosen by the community people themselves. So if they feel they need somebody who can read and write, it's well designed. And you have these volunteers who have been working for years, volunteering, meaning they are sacrificing. So the problem, I think, which the Director General is failing to talk about, is that these community-based volunteers at the chief zone level have not been motivated for years. They don't have the needed logistics to work with. No even common bicycles, no mobile phones, no motorbikes for CHOs, no fuel. These are the problems. And therefore, if there's any intervention, then see how you motivate the already existing community-based volunteers to be motivated to work.
And indeed, we know that it's been a very busy period in Parliament, although the House is on recess. Quickly, what more do we know about some committee engagements going on?
So the Government Assurance Committee is sitting. They are tracking the promises that have been made by members of Parliament on the floor of the House and how they are being implemented. Yesterday, they were expecting to hear from the Education Minister. He did appear, but the Fisheries Minister, Hawa Kumsem, did not appear. They served out a warning that they were not going to tolerate that. Today,
has she provided explanations as to why we're not seeing her?
Well, there was an explanation that she was not feeling so well, so she sent the Deputy Minister. The committee said that they were not willing to work with Deputy Ministers because they were not the ones who made the specific promises on the floor. Today, we're expecting Local Government Minister Dan Botwe to appear. Dan Botwe did not, and the minister, the chairperson of the committee, Madam Patricia Peje, explained that it was because the minister was on tour with the president in the northern part of the country. So we'll hear from that shortly. But also, the minority are not excited. According to the ranking member of the committee, this shows that some of the ministers are not taking the committee very seriously. And so John Otibles, who is the ranking member of the committee, said that they are not going to tolerate that. And so these ministers who were not able to appear this week should do so next week, and there will be no excuses from them.
I regret to announce that the minister is on tour with the president and could not come before us. And per our principle, I think they heard us loud and clear, that per our principle, the initial arrangement to have the deputy minister stand in for the minister was turned down by the committee. And therefore, we have an arrangement where we can reorganize, and then a later date will be announced for the sitting or the appearance of the Minister for Local Government. So we are hopeful that next week, when we sit for the others, we could also consider a hearing from the Local Government Ministry. We regret very much of this unfortunate incident and hope that next week we'll be able to complete what we have actually decided to do.
So for some ministers to keep using their tour with the president as an excuse is unacceptable. So we want to draw the attention of other ministers who are yet to be invited before this committee that they should take note. And as indicated by the chairperson, we are not going to accept deputy ministers before us. because the promises and assurances were made by the ministers themselves. So they should take note. We are not going to accept any deputy minister before this committee. So the ministers must be prepared to avail themselves before the committee. So henceforth, we aren't going to accept any excuse as a committee. This committee, we mean business. We are not here to witch hunt. We are here to serve the public. We are here to serve the interests of Ghanaians. We are the representatives of the people. So we deserve some level of respect. Appearance before this committee is an obligation. So they must ensure that anytime they are called upon to appear before us, they should do so.
And hundreds of residents of Mamobi in the Ayaso North Municipality of the Greater Accra region are asking government to give them more time to vacate an area designated for a market. The residents who have been demonstrating today say they've been given 3 weeks to vacate the area. Clad in red and black, they poured out onto the streets asking for at least a year to relocate. There's more in the following report.
We've walked all the way from the Mamobi JHS, very close to the Mamobi police station here. We'll be speaking shortly to the assemblyman here. You can see the police chief in charge of the Nima area who was just speaking to the assemblyman here. So they're marching all the way to Obra Sport, and they are hoping to submit some letters, which you can see in the brown envelope, to some people in government. I'll ask the exact demands and what exactly they're also asking for. I have the assemblyman for the area. Good morning. So what's your full name though?
My full name is Wisdom Boatin, aka Okumanipa or Kumunipa.
Okay. I hope you don't kill anybody. So, but let me ask you. So, what are exact demands? What are your concerns?
Our demand is one: we want the government to intervene in this matter. Okay. For us to discuss this issue, because we are 1 week or 21 days to evacuate from the land. We have been preside on the land since 1967. So, we are not foreigners, we are Ghanaians. So, the state should exercise patience for us. We can't litigate with the state. We can never litigate with the state. The strength of those that are living there and the state cannot battle with them.
So, when I listen to you, you are agreeing that yes, the land is for the state and you are willing to leave, but you just need some more time to leave.
Nobody is disputing that fact that the land does not belong to the state. But the land was given to us by our predecessors by AMA. Okay. So we are on that land since 1967 up to date. And we have been paying revenue to then AMA and the current Ayawaso North Municipal Assembly. We are paying revenue to them. So I don't see why you can evacuate Ghanaians within just 21 days. Are we foreigners? We are not foreigners. We are Ghanaians.
So how much more time do you need?
Well, when we get there, we'll cross. Okay. When we get there, we'll cross. Okay, but our wishes, the state will invite us and listen to our concern. Several petitions have been written to office of the president, office of the vice president, but our attention has not been called. That's why we are doing this demonstration. Maybe somebody has sight on our petition, but through this demonstration, the government will hear from us to invite us.
Again, I see some of the people asking for compensation. Why compensation?
Well, they think they have invested on the land. So if the government, the state were to evacuate us, they need a little compensation. Because they have spent money on that land. And it was AMA that authorized them, our predecessors, to do that stores over there. And now it has turned to be a residential area. And Ayawaso North Municipal Assembly cannot tell us that they are not aware that those that are living there, the population that are living there, are not a lot. It's a lot. So there's exercise patient. We cannot litigate with the state. The state should exercise patience so that we have a very nice discussion so that my people too will calm down before they will evacuate.
But you see, I know what sitting and so to say. Let me speak to some more women who are part of the protest here en route to Obrasport, challenging government's decision to evict them within 21 days. Me pacho wona anentina also o machibi.
Me ni baby abatina me kuno so yare me ni baby me di kukura ko nti o wadam me nya sika susu
nti anka o pese ye modern sisi e ma momre kakra
pacho
na se mresen
my mentini ye nti me ni di amaka susu mentini ye ya igbeni nti me ni di amaka
but sisi anu wasitena na ete say ene bi mu akasa mo say ayedin
my entina kakra ansa no enko into.
But we have stayed there for very long and we pay property rate. We are pleading for the government that at least if you should see us and at least give us some time. You understand? Even if some compensation self and relief, why not? It's okay. But to me, if like give us time, oh okay, because of this, we will give us time like this. You understand? Then everybody have agreed on it. Then we went, but you can't come and just something like that.
Well, the BEC is just around the corner here, and they are candidates as part of that. This protest here, well, they tell me that their school is also going to be demolished as part of that, the Mamobi JHS. I have some children from that school. What school do you attend?
Mamobi.
Okay, I mean, why are you part of this protest?
Because they are coming to break our houses. Our mother don't have any money, so we want you to help us.
But what about your school? Your school is going to be part of that?
Yes.
That would mean that you'll be going to school anytime soon?
Yes.
Great, but what does schooling mean to you? Why is schooling important?
A lot.
Explain.
We'll keep our eyes on that development. But for now, many Ghanaian homes are shifting to the use of sachet water for domestic purposes. But Norak's water system says you may not need that again by using its Trojan water max filter, which, amongst others, removes some 99.9 of dirt and reduces color. Supervisor Ella Dovey at the EcoBank JoyNews Habitat Fair at the Accra International Conference Center says that the Water Max filter, which is fixed directly on your tap, makes your water safer for drinking.
I'm particularly amazed by some of the things that I have seen on display here. One of them is from a local company called Pneumafis Limited. Now, for a lot of buildings, a lot of homes in waterlogged areas, you experience dampness on your walls, a part of the building, getting wet, marring the beauty of the painting. Now, there's a permanent solution to that with Pneumafis. I've been speaking to the CEO for Pneumafis, Reverend Samuel Asari Odoi.
What causes the dampness on the wall is that in a waterlog, right, the water in the ground climbs up your structure. Then it renders it this way, right? When the water is coming up, it comes with salt. And then it weakens the block work, the cement work in your structure. Now, if you have this problem, if you contact the chamber through Pneumafis, we'll be able to help you. The best thing for any builder who is building is to start the building, the concrete, the foundation with the anti-salt, right? If you start your foundation and you mix your concrete with the anti-salt. The anti-salt has two components. It has what we call salt neutralizer. And then it also stops the water, waterproof. Right? So this component, if you use it to lay your foundation, your screeding, your plastering, water cannot penetrate and climb to destroy your wall.
I've also been speaking to one of the exhibitors here, Marciana Abavana, and she has been telling me what to consider when you're making selection for furniture for your new home. She's also been talking about how to keep the upholstery clean and free from smell.
Marciana Abavana. I'm the creative director and founder of Kalira.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Tell us, what do you do?
So Kalira is a company, a Ghanaian company that produces beautiful, very good quality and affordable furniture right here in Ghana.
Okay.
Other services we have include reupholstery services. So if you have old furniture that you want us to give to like do up and make nice again, make it look new again, we have that service.
So you basically pimp furniture, like pimp my ride.
I can pimp your furniture, you know, give a new fabric, put buttons in it, take some buttons out, change the color of the wood. I can pimp your furniture for you. We also do interior decor and design. We also provide concept design for if you have a space and you just want us to do a 3D, give you an idea and you want to somebody else execute it, we can do that for you.
What advice would you give a prospective homeowner? What would you advise them to do when you are choosing a furniture for their home?
Well, I guess the most important thing with furniture is that it must be of very good quality. Very, very good quality. The frame must be really good. It must be able to last you at least 10-15 years with your chair. It's okay to change the upholstery every 3 to 4 years and maybe the foam every 5 to 6 years, but the frame should be able to last you at least 10 to 15 years. That's a very good piece of furniture. So you should be looking more for quality and longevity of your furniture, and that's what Kalira stands for. We're trying to do black excellence. We're trying to go back and produce those old furniture pieces that we used to make back in the day, but with a modern touch.
I think the hashtag should be Black Excellence. Yeah.
Yes, we're going Black Excellence. That's what it is.
Now you talk about the upholstery. I think that's what is a challenge for a lot of people, because I mean sometimes you sit in cars and the upholstery is dirty, sometimes smelling, even for homes. How do we prevent that? Is there a solution to that?
Well, I guess you should know the kind of furniture to use for different places. So, for example, if you know it's a very humid place and the places will absorb a lot of smells and everything, you probably want to use more like a leather or what we call a plastic leather, PU leather. That would be, or if not, but even with the fabric, you can have fabric that can be easily cleaned. The thing is that people think when you buy your furniture, you should just keep it, but you should really clean it. You can vacuum clean it nowadays. Even the steam cleaning that they use for cars and stuff, you can steam clean your sofas and everything. It's very, very good furniture. You can actually take a sponge and soap and clean them and air the furniture every once in a while, and that could keep the life of the furniture. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Tell you about the Trojan Max water filter, which we are told purifies water, removes dirt in water by 99.9%. Now the difference is that this water filter will be fixed directly to your tap. And it's a very simple process.
With this, it helps you to purify your water too. So you just fix it at the tip of your sink like this, and it purifies your water for you.
There are a lot of water filters on the market. What makes this different?
This is end-use water filter. So with this, you can see the purification and the filtration of the water. That makes for you to drink. Yeah.
So a lot of ladies, we don't really pay attention to the water we use in terms of bathing and washing ourselves. And we forget that the water we use also gives us vaginal infection. But we focus on maybe using public toilet and all that. But the water we use actually gives us vaginal infection.
Okay. So for this one that is fixed directly to the tap, it's easier for you, because if you're fetching water from the tap to go and bath, it's just directly and it purifies everything.
Exactly.
We have also been speaking to some patrons to find out from them what they make of the EcoBank JoyNews Habitat Fair. Many of them are excited by the deals and discounts that they are getting here.
Mami Isaba. Yes. Today is actually my first time coming here. It's very, very detailed, I must say. I can see so many realtors, so many other companies, from construction to the building itself. I'm very, very pleased with what I see. Yes. Every everyone here too is so receptive. They talk to you really nicely and they explain everything to detail. So I see a lot of people who are also interested in buying here too. So definitely, I've even seen something I never expected to see. A price here that I wasn't expected to see. So definitely come here if you're interested in it.
Yes, it's good. It's good. I mean, you can't go wrong with multimedia organizing. The Habitat Fair has been good over the years, so it's good. I mean, it's
Food Court is right here outside the Accra International Conference Center. If you drive in here, all you need is to come here and to get any food that you want. All the sellers are here ready to deliver. You can see quite a number of people are sitting here enjoying a meal before they walk inside into the foyer to start business here.
And certainly the Accra International Conference Center is where you need to be as for the EcoBank JoyNews Habitat Fair. We hope to see you there. But that's all we have for you here on the show, The Pulse on the JoyNews channel. I am blessed Sogah. Do log on to myjoyonline.com. We have updates there for you. Next is Let's Talk Showbiz, but that will be after this break.